In today's video, we're going to be counting down the top 10 greatest Japanese cars. Number 1, the Lexus LFA. The LFA is powered by a 4.8-liter V10 engine. This beauty was co-developed by Yamaha. And the result? Well, the result is a sound that'll make you feel like you're at the starting line of a Grand Prix. I'm talking about a scream that's so high-pitched, so pure, that it's practically music. Heck, they should sell tickets to listen to this thing rev up. But this car is more than just a pretty voice. It's got 552 horsepower feeding through a rear-wheel drive setup. And the throttle response? It's so instantaneous that it feels like the engine knows what you're thinking before you do. Have you ever had a car that's so responsive you wonder if it's secretly reading your mind? Yeah, that's the LFA. And the way it revs? Up to 9,000 RPM, like it's not even breaking a sweat. It's the kind of rev that makes you rethink what engines can do. Number 2, the 1990 to 1994 Mitsubishi Eclipse. The Eclipse came out of a unique partnership called Diamond Star Motors, an alliance between Mitsubishi and Chrysler that was all about breaking new ground. Built right in Normal, Illinois, this car was anything but ordinary. It came equipped with the 4G63T engine, which was a turbocharged beast that packed a strong punch, enough to make even the heavyweight contenders of the 90s start to sweat. That's right, this was the same engine found in the legendary Lancer EVO. The Eclipse didn't need to flex, it let the turbo do the talking, and that talk was fast, fierce, and filled with attitude. With all-wheel drive on the GSX model, the Eclipse had grip for days. Imagine launching off the line with every tire clawing at the tarmac. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement. It took on drag strips across the country and left a trail of stunned muscle cars in its wake. The Eclipse was a game changer, proving that compact imports could run with the big dogs and do it in style. You didn't see it coming, but you definitely saw it going. So what happened? Well, sometimes greatness isn't maintained. After the first few blistering years, Mitsubishi decided to dial things back, trading raw power and performance for a softer and more market-friendly ride. By the time the third generation rolled around, the Eclipse had lost that all-wheel drive, the turbocharged fire breather under the hood, and ultimately the spirit that made it great. It became more about comfort than cornering, more cruiser than contender. But in its prime, the Eclipse was the underdog that rose to the challenge. It was Paul Walker's ride of choice in the Fast and the Furious for a reason. It represented everything that was excited about the tuner scene back then. A car that could be tuned, pushed, and even driven to the edge. Number 3, the Lexus LC500. A naturally aspirated 5.0-liter V8. I mean, this isn't just any engine. This is the kind of power plant that hums with purpose. One that feels like it was born to do what it does best. Roar. When you put your foot down, the sound that fills your ears isn't some overprocessed, piped-in engine note. It's raw, it's real, it's got that visceral growl that reminds you exactly why V8s are legendary. This engine makes you want to drive just for the thrill of hearing it sing. And here's the kicker, it's built to last. Unlike the complicated guts of an Audi R8 or a BMW M6, the LC500's engine bay is straightforward and practical. It's almost like Lexus wanted you to feel like you could take care of it for yourself. Just you and a wrench, without the heartbreak of constant trips to the shop. And the looks? Oh man, the looks. The LC500 has that rare kind of beauty that doesn't shout at you from across the parking lot. Instead, it beckons you closer. Every line, every angle, it's all crafted to perfection and with a purpose. There's no over-the-top aero kit, no unnecessary flair, just sleek, confident lines that look like they were carved by the wind itself. It's that kind of car that makes people do double takes. And the best part? It's a Lexus. The kind of Lexus that'll have people scratching their heads, because this isn't the same company that made the ES300, right, that grandma uses to get her groceries. No, this is something entirely different. A Lexus that stands toe-to-toe with exotics without losing its sense of refinement. Inside, the LC500 keeps up that same energy. It's got a minimalist, almost zen-like approach. It makes you feel instantly at ease. The cabin wraps around you, the kind of ergonomic luxury that makes you feel like the car was built around your needs, not the other way around. The multi-level dash, the driver-focused layout, the wide center console that subtly says, "This is your domain." It all comes together to create an experience that's more about driving and less about distracting gadgets. And sure, the back seats might be more symbolic than practical, but let's be real, you didn't buy this car to haul the soccer team. It's about you, the road, and that V8 singing along with its perfect song. Number 4, the 1970 Mazda Cosmo. the first Japanese rotary-powered sports car, and let me tell you, it's got more character than a Tarantino movie. The Cosmo was Mazda's first foray into Wankel rotary engines, which, for the uninitiated, don't use pistons like your typical engine. No, this baby runs on spinning triangles. That's right, magical spinning triangles that were surrounded by controlled explosions. It's wild, it's different, and frankly, it's why this car deserves the same kind of love that we throw at the Toyota 2000 GT or the Nissan Hakosuka GT-R. With fewer than 1,200 units ever made, the Cosmo is an elusive beauty, and under the hood, a 982cc dual-rotor engine that produced 128 horsepower, which may not sound like a lot by today's standards, but back then, it was like strapping a rocket to a go-kart. Plus, Mazda nailed the infamous apex seal issue that plagued earlier rotary engines, meaning that you could drive this thing actually for more than 80,000 kilometers before needing a full rebuild. Number 5, the Toyota 2000 GT. This is the car that transformed Toyota from the underdog trying to sell underpowered sedans to an international powerhouse. A car so iconic that Porsche packed up and raced it to take back its own records. That's right, folks, the Toyota beat Porsche at their own game. Let that sink in. Now let's dive into what makes this car a true legend. The 2000 GT sits so low to the ground, you'd swear it was ready to slide right under a semi-truck. But what it really does is hug every corner like it's whispering sweet nothings into the asphalt. And don't even get me started on the design. Inspired by none other than the Jaguar E-Type, it's got that classic long hood, tiny cabin look that screams speed. But what really sets the 2000 GT apart is its craftsmanship. Yamaha's piano division handcrafted the wood inside. And I'm not talking about veneer, I mean real slabs of rosewood that can make a Steinway blush. Number 6, the 2007 to 2024 Nissan GT-R. Affectionately known as Godzilla, it's the kind of machine that turns legends into reality. When it first hit the streets, it was like a guided missile before guided missiles were cool. It had the precision, power, and presence that left even the 911 Turbo scrambling to keep up. Now let me walk you through what makes this beast roar even after nearly 2 decades. Take a look at the 2024 GT-R Nismo. It's clear that Nissan didn't just settle for a refresh. Up front, they've given it a brand new and aggressive look with sharper lines and more exposed carbon fiber, a look that screams performance without saying a word. And it's not just about looks. Those massive air intakes up front are about as functional as they get, channeling air to cool the brakes so you can take that next corner harder and faster. The GT-R Nismo also added features like a carbon fiber roof, reducing weight and lowering the center of gravity to keep you planted on those sharp bends. It's the kind of precision that makes you feel connected to the road. Every input you give instantly is reflected back with a sense of purpose. The limited slip differential up front is another new addition that ensures power is distributed exactly where it's needed. So every ounce of that 600 horsepower is put to good use. No wasted effort, just raw, controlled power. Number 7, the 2024 Nissan Z. Z is all about nostalgia, with a heavy side of that don't mess with me power. The exterior, it's got this unmistakable 240Z front end. Simple, elegant, and totally a head-turner. And the headlights, they're shaped like the kind of thing that makes grown men shed a tear. Retro, done right. And here's where the magic really happens. Under the hood, you're looking at a VR 3.0 twin-turbo V6 that puts out 378 horses. You're looking at a VR 3.0-liter twin-turbo V6 that puts out 378 horses and 475 Nm of torque. It's like strapping a rocket to a nostalgia trip. Plus, you've got 2 transmissions to choose from. A 6-speed manual for those who want to actually drive, and a 9-speed automatic for when you feel like cruising in style. And let's not forget those forged 19-inch raised wheels, the kind that can make even your grandma think she's ready to race. Number 8, the 2024 Toyota GR Supra. And this isn't just your run-of-the-mill sports car. Oh no, we're talking about a 3.0-liter turbocharged inline-6 engine that's practically automotive poetry. With 382 horsepower and 368 pounds-per-feet of torque, it's the kind of power that makes you wonder if you're actually on a racetrack every time you drive to the grocery store. Not that you would admit it, of course. And here's the kicker. They brought back a manual transmission for that full-blown, knuckle-whitening, grin-inducing driving experience. The Supra isn't just about straight-line speed, it's about precision. The adaptive variable suspension keeps you glued to the road, and it's got Brembo front brakes. So when you eventually need to slow this beast down, it'll stop quicker than my friends at the side of broccoli. And with a 0 to 60 time at just 3.9 seconds, you might not even get a chance to blink. Number 9, the Mazda MX-5 Miata. I like to call it the smile on wheels. You see, this little beast didn't have a ton of horsepower, and it doesn't need it to make an impression. Oh no, it's all about balance, driving fun, and making you feel like a superstar, even if your wallet said otherwise. Back in the late 80s, Mazda decided to give us a gift, a 2-seater convertible that was light, nimble, and a pure joy to drive. It wasn't about blistering speed, it was about experience. Picture a car that's as tight as a drum kit, weighing in at around 2,100 pounds. It wasn't much heavier than a shopping cart, and trust me, when you get behind the wheel, it felt like every corner begged you to push it a little harder. Number 10, the Nissan 240SX. The 240SX debuted in the US in 1988 as the S13, but let me tell you, it came in both a hatchback and coupe version, 2 flavors that were equally sweet. But here's where it really gets spicy. In Japan, the hatchback was called the 180SX, and the coupe was the Silvia. Oh, and in Europe, it was the 200SX. Yeah, it's got more names than your buddy who keeps reinventing himself on social media. Each name, each variant, carried its own unique swag. And if you got your hands on one, you were basically holding a golden ticket to car enthusiast paradise. It's got that perfect blend, rear-wheel drive, lightweight, and balanced like a tightrope walker on a good day. It's the kind of car that doesn't just take corners, it dances through them. Back in the day, you could snag an S13 for around $15,000 new, and it weighed in at a nimble 2,700 pounds. Now, well, thanks to something called the drift tax, these legends are going for 4 to 6 times what they used to. It's like buying a piece of nostalgia, but man, what a ride. Speaking of rides, have you considered why this car became so iconic in movies like The Fast and the Furious? Or how many car enthusiasts had their first drift experience in a 240SX? Well, if you've got stories or thoughts, drop them in the comments below. And hey, which do you think was cooler, the S13 or the Silvia?